I'm Mason Mount. You're listening to the London is Blue podcast.
First player up would be Mason Mount, potentially Chelsea's player of the year. A lot going on around about him. His contract goes to the summer of 2024, so we've got him locked in. No worries. Keeps across the board. So Dan or Tweeds, we didn't, we had our discussion if he was player of the season or not. I think Nick was the only one of us three that said yes. So you said keep.
An intelligent man.
Nick and Dan were both yes on Mason Mount for player of the season.
No, you had Aspie.
No, you had Aspie and Phil had Aspie.
Yeah.
And actually Phil, after hearing the comments of one Nick Verlaney and one Dan Dormer, was almost turned.
I'm in charge. I create the narrative. So anyways, Tweeds, Mason Mount, we're all keeping across the board. What's his role moving into next season?
Yeah, and just to add to that, yeah, he was also my player of the season as well. I think the interesting thing with Mason is that I think if you look at probably all of Chelsea's good performances this season, Mason has played. I'm not super keen on him as a winger. I'm not super keen on him when he plays sort of more of a kind of distinct sort of number 10 role. I think those two. I think he's still very useful. He has a lot of useful qualities, but I think the more we saw him kind of transition to more of like a traditional central midfield role towards the latter part of the season, that's when you really saw the best out of him. And his appetite to work, his ability to press, to create pressures, to turn the ball over, to be the guy who sets the tone in the team. For someone of his age, his defensive skill set is crazy. You don't really, certainly for young English players who have been kind of, I suppose, marketed as sort of number 10s or sort of attacking midfielders, you don't really see this sort of skill set in them. So I think that going forward, yeah, he's looking for me to be probably one of the central midfielders. I think that's his best position. He just offers so much to the team. Yes, there's lots he needs to work on. Some decision making in the final third, when to pass, when to shoot, when to make some of those decisions. Maybe playing some riskier balls here and there, backing his own ability. But I think in terms of what Lampard, Morris and Edwards are trying to achieve, the style of football that they're trying to sort of imbue within the club, Mount is critical. His ability to just set the tone of exactly what it is that Lampard's after in terms of pressing, counter-pressing, in terms of the speed which he normally plays when he has the ball. He's quite efficient. You won't see him just carry the ball for no reason. You won't see him sort of do inefficient actions. So, yeah, I'm really, really high on him. I think he has an ability to sort of solidify himself next season. But yeah, I think if we're playing 4-3-3, one of those sort of central midfield positions is probably his to lose at this point in time. And again, with a lot of these young players, first season in the Premier League, he's got so much room to grow and develop as well. And I think certainly from watching him from Vitesse, through Derby, through Chelsea, the growth each season is quite tangible. So, I expect him to make another big step next season and again to sort of solidify himself and be more consistently towards the top end of his performance level as well.
All right.
I'm keeping him, yeah.
Simple. I think Mason's going to have a huge role. I think we've all talked extremely highly. We talked about, even with Matt Law, 8 out of 10 on his season. The Frank loves him, so he's going to have every opportunity to succeed. Really excited to see where he goes. And just his smile, he's just such a likable guy. I'm so happy for him.
You want to see the end product pay off the work, right? I think that's probably the area that I would look at and say, look, man, you've done the hard part, right? You won the ball back in midfield. And then, there were at times this season where he would get into the box or crowd out another player in the box. I think we're going to have so much attacking talent up front this year. He'll find more space on a late run than he did this year by a mile. Well, so I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah.
I mean, he only had 2 less goals than he had all season at Derby last year, and he went up from the Championship to the Premier League. So I think your point is well made, Nick, that he does need to improve in that area. But I think making the transition and showing that he's capable of doing it and the consistency of just playing in every match that he could outside of, I think, one FA Cup first rounder is pretty impressive. So
Well, and don't forget, assists and chance creation will be highly valuable with the weapons around him as well. So it'll be great. Jorginho on contract until summer of 2023. We all said sell, but in very different ways, I would like to point out. Tweeds with the classic sell. Nick says, fare thee well. Dan says, throw him out of the club, sell, sell, sell. And I said, cash in to find a player that fits the squad's needs better. And then in all caps, I have no anti-Jorginho agenda, so don't at me. Because that's the easy thing. Jorginho is such a specialty player, Tweeds. He does a certain thing really, really well with the transition from Maurizio Sarri to Frank Lampard. As much as Lampard praised him at the beginning of the season, he didn't even feature at the end of the season. So I think we've realized that Frank is looking for a different type of player, nothing more egregious or spiteful than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point my viewpoints on Jorginho are fairly well known. The Georgenda, as it's officially known as. I mean, it comes to a point now where I think he's sort of naturally run his course in the team. The sort of the control possession style of game that he probably suits for sort of the shorter passing and sort of more touches, more trying to look to sort of manipulate teams sort of into jumping out and stuff like that. It's all well and good, but I think we can see that Lampard wants to play at a certain pace. And he made some very pointed comments. I think it was after the FA Cup final about going a goal up and players just quite happy to play little 5-yard passes to each other like it's five-a-side. For me, it's a very clear critique of both Jorginho and maybe Kovacic as well in terms of their sort of way that they were quite willing to play the game. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sort of completely sort of dunk all over him, but it comes to a point where I think defensively, you can show me all of the statistics in the world that show that he's the greatest defender. I can rebuke sort of all of them if I really want to in terms of going in depth on them. I mean, his interception statistic, if you go into any game and look at any sort of the heat maps and match actions and where things are recorded, I don't care that my holding midfielder is recording interceptions in the opponent's final third. I want him to be in front of my back four, screening the back four, intercepting passes that are dangerous towards our goal. Same with winning challenges, someone's like, he wins more tackles than Kante there. Again, I don't care that I don't want him pressing centre-backs. I don't want him pressing full-backs. I want him to be in front of the back four, screening the back four, making tackles when someone's trying to shoot or trying to run into the penalty area. There are actions that he has good stats on, which if you look at the context in terms of where they are on the pitch, they just mean nothing. And that's why when I made the point about Declan Rice literally just standing in front of the back four is an improvement to this team. I think hopefully there are still suitors for Jorginho in Italy. The pace of the game over there, the way that midfields generally are slightly more zonal than man-to-man in terms of how teams generally set up defensively. It all kind of suits him. Regardless of sort of the maybe some of the good games he's had here, but I just think from a defensive standpoint and just in terms of the general pace of play that he plays at, he just doesn't suit Lampard's system and the style of play that the club want to have going forward. So, yeah, it's a sell. And then for me, I would look to concentrate all of the funds in getting in, as you say, a profile of player who can sort of execute the role that Lampard wants. And as much as people will kind of push this as some sort of overly Brexit or a very agricultural opinion, the person playing in that position needs to be pretty athletic. Lampard has pretty significant requirements on that player to be able to cover the two central midfielders. We attack with lots of numbers. You've got to be able to cover in fullbacks if we lose the ball in transition. So many times this season where he lost the ball with Kovacic and Jorginho ahead of the ball, and then teams are sort of just sprinting at our back four. You either need to have the ability to get back there. You've either got to be that quick that you can recover, or your positional sense has got to be better. So one or the other. But we need someone who is athletic, who is strong, who can play that position properly in the Premier League for Chelsea and how Lampard wants to play it. And it's that for me. So hopefully you say he's they're still interested in him from Italy. Hopefully we can get a deal done and then try to bring in someone potentially who can execute the role as to Lampard's requirements.
Yeah, I mean, the simple thing is he just doesn't fit the system. And, I think that happens with specialty players. We've seen it with Alonso being semi-transitioned into a back four. We've seen this time after time when you buy a player that's suited to a manager, Kepa maybe even as one of those players too. It's less on him for me and more on what he's expected to do. I don't believe that's the case. Like, he's going to be able to do what Lampard wants him to do. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, he had a career high number of yellow cards this season at, I think, 13. And so it just doesn't have the kind of either the pace or the ability to position appropriately in the way that we're playing. And, if you do add someone who is a little bit of a notch above there in terms of screening the defense, as Joe pointed out, how much better would the defense have been this season too? Because I think we talk a lot about the failings of the defense. You defend as a team. And if that person who is, playing in that six is not giving the fullbacks or the center backs a little bit of additional support, it's all going to fall apart. And so, it's just time. We can't afford him as a luxury player on the team anymore, Brandon.
And 80.9% agree. Sell from our Instagram poll.
Yep, 18.9% keep, 0.2% sell. Or I'm sorry, loan. So it just, again, it's nothing personal. He probably is still a fantastic player. It just doesn't fit the league. Lampard, a couple of different things. And so, hey, look, City want to come in, splash the cash. They were big on him a couple of seasons ago. I mean, it is what it is for this guy. It's not the right fit. And I think that's okay. There's no deep-seated hate for this player like some people do. Also shows you we backed Maurizio Sarri's players, and, well, now Maurizio Sarri's gone and don't need these specialty players. Puts us in a tough predicament.